Welcome back to the Character Corner. This is your host, Chris and Phenom. I'm sorry, I mean Deepalm, because
Wow. I can't believe
apparently,
you did that.
well, I'm just saying that apparently some people who apparently are big fans of ours can't tell the difference between black men who, yeah, like you and Phenom. So apparently, they can't tell what you and Phenom are, because you guys do look alike. And granted, Phenom is light skinned and you are not light skinned. But you guys are both big black men, so I'm just saying and yeah, your voices sound a little bit different, just slightly different. And he has his own show, and own network, and everything like that. And you're on the MTR network, but I'm just saying, sometimes people get a little confused by you and Phenom.
For the record, the only thing I was like, I don't know if we should do this today, but I know we're going to talk about this bullshit. And that was a great sneaky way to just launch at the very beginning. Get it out of the way.
I'm not even gonna go into it. I'm just saying, leave us a 5-star review, so we can make sure our 5-star rating stuff. But we had a troll that left us a 1-star review, who clearly does not listen to the show, because if you read the review, you'll see that they clearly don't listen to the show.
It's amazing. It's really amazing.
It's almost as amazing as the one we got on the MTR network, where the person was complaining about the Insanity Check. It's like, well, the Insanity Check should be its own show on the network. And I'm like, it is. It's on its own feed on the network. You don't actually have to listen to the Insanity Check if you don't. If you just want the TV shows and the reviews. Not saying that we take blackness out of those other things either, which is the thing that threw me off about this one on the Character Corner one. It's like, you guys are always talking about race, and I was like, well, I think the second one we did was on like. Or maybe it was the first one. Whichever one we did on Falcon. When he became Captain America, it's like, hey guys, if you like comic books, you're gonna hear about race, because comic books are all about race and
That's all 100% true. But then again, I was like, wait, did we talk about race in the Peter Parker one? I was like,
yes, we
actually we talked about relating to it because anyone could be under the mask, but beyond that, like, I don't know where this. It was a very disjointed and to this brave person who's never heard this podcast won't hear this. Good trolling, good sir. I don't know.
We're sorry. We lost you as a fan that you never were, I guess.
If you attract one fan, but you add back the fact that he wasn't a fan, it's a net zero.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's just like, I'm sorry we lost you. I like the MTR one. It was like, oh, check back in 6 months. I'm like, oh, this dude's going to be pissed in 6 months. It's like, it's not going to get any better, guys. Anyway, forget all that stuff. We are back to talk about part 2 of Peter Parker Spider-Man here. Again, you guys know the Character Corner. We go through some of the history. In the first one, we went through the first 150 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. Basically teenage Peter Parker, and with basically going through, and the next one's going to expand a little bit, because it's more than just Amazing Spider-Man. We add in three other ongoing books that have Spider-Man in them during this era. I mean, it's a lot going on here, but I think I said this a lot last time too. Spider-Man almost reads like a lot of Batman stories. I mean, even a little bit better in that. Because there are a lot of bad Batman, and there's some bad Spider-Man stuff, but I found myself reading some of this older stuff and really, really enjoying it.
Well, the thing about the Batman stuff is, no matter how good an old Batman story is, Bruce Wayne never matters.
Mm-hmm.
And reading these Spidey books, there's no let up. It's like, oh, victory in the mask, and Peter's homeless. It's like,
right.
it's like Peter got a new job. But the Green Goblin killed his girlfriend. Like, it's
right.
You're like, come on, man! I need someone.
Yeah.
Can the Parker and Spider lives go on the same track for 10 seconds, please?
Well, and I think that's the key thing that is the difference between when you get Batman and Spider-Man. Why these characters are so popular? Spider-Man adds the extra piece where anybody can be under the mask. Peter Parker goes through, whether you're black, white, or whatever. Peter Parker goes through some shit in his personal life, and we can all relate to that. But also Peter Parker matters. Like, you can go there's very rarely do you go an entire Spider-Man issue and not see Peter Parker, or have Peter doing some issues. And I just want to throw this in there, and I'm not trying to rub this in. I've seen Spider-Man Homecoming, and
you are rubbing it like that. You can't say that.
There's no easy way to do this.
Then why? Okay, you, Chris.
I'm just saying. I'm making a point here that I think that's another thing they do really well in that movie is you have this young kid and he acts like a young kid. He has, he wants to do things. He's, he has a personal life he's trying to maintain and also trying to be, a superhero. I mean, there's some really great moments in there, and I can't wait for other people to see the movie. But one of the things I did, and before we get into the readings we did, so I wrote this article about how, and it prepares things that Deepalm's been saying, I've been saying, that Sony's fucking screwed with Spider-Man, because it's just like, there's no way
the second they gave Marvel Creative, it was so how long is it going to be until you give the property back?
Because there's no way to really take and divorce Spider-Man from the MCU once you put him in there. And when I was writing the article, one of the things I didn't expand too much, but I got to the end of the article and I mentioned this point, and I was like, wait, it's even bigger than I thought. Especially as I was reading the readings we were doing now. Marvel did this really great thing where they started getting back some properties. And then when you realize that some of these properties, the most important thing about them these are characters who really interact with Spider-Man all the time. Right. I forgot that in the first season of Daredevil, we technically got Owl, and we're going to talk about this later on here. But that's a little mini arc they have. That's actually a pretty important arc in Peter's life. You have a little war between the Owl and Dr. Octopus. They got Melvin Potter, who shows up during one of these things as well. Daredevil plays a huge role in some of these things, yep. And just playing off of Daredevil's sense of justice, and I think this is one thing that threw me off, and we'll get into this more if we talk about Peter Parker. Peter Parker's rage and his anger sometimes in dealing with stuff. Like, we always go, oh, well, Peter's just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Peter Parker's got some anger issues too. He's not,
and well earned. Like, he has every right to be angry every time. Every time Peter gets mad, I'm like, I too would be angry.
Don't get me wrong. He was 100% right. I mean, it was going through the Death of Jean Dewolff. Like, he was 100% right in this. Like there was shit that that Daredevil was saying that, and I think there was also was it Gang War? Yeah, isn't Gang War the one where the Kingpin comes back? And I was like, oh, yeah, Daredevil. Yeah, I can't really go with you on this one, man. Like, he's making this argument that, well, the New York underworld would be better. I mean, Kingpin is a criminal. We don't want him there, but he creates stability. And Peter Parker's like, are you fucking serious right now? Are you fucking? Can you hear yourself talk? Yeah, right. Are you fucking serious? But Daredevil's making this logical, compromise argument, and Spider-Man's just like, the fuck, So you're gonna get that away. I just mentioned Kingpin, who has a huge role in these issues we're about to go forward with. Now back in Marvel, Luke Cage, Shield. So if you ever want to decide, hey, fuck it, let's just go the Miles route. Miles is heavily involved in Shield, and with Shield looking over his shoulder. So it's like, going forward, all roads lead back to the MCU for Sony. They might be
in a wrap since they announced creative.
Huh?
Since they announced, we're giving Marvel creative, it's been a ticking clock on when Spider-Man would truly come out.
And when you see the film, you're going to see that Marvel did not waste. They were like, okay, we're going to implant.
Nigga, I said this the day they announced it.
Yeah. I
said it's a wrap. This Sony Spider-Verse, it is a wrap to keep investors happy who don't know about the long play. Yeah. Guess what? Guess how much Marvel's making off the box office for Spider-Man? Zero.
But they get all the merchandising.
Why run down and take some of the money? We can walk down and take it all.
Well, and this is what, and again, my article, I'll link to it in the show notes. But people kept saying, well, no, it's a deal that, once the trilogy's over with, Marvel and Sony will keep the deal going because Marvel gets the merchandising rights no matter what. So that means
they gave away the film and television rights.
Right. And well, they bought
all merch leads.
Oh, it's worse than that, though. Sony actually made the Marvel deal. They sold the rights to the merchandising back to Marvel in 2011. So that means that Venom movie or that Silver and Black movie, guess who gets the merchandising on those movies? Not Sony, Marvel does. So it doesn't matter how successful those films are or how good those films are. Sony's not getting all the money. Marvel doesn't give a shit. Marvel's like, all right, cool. Go in and make your little universe movies. We're getting the merchandising rights off of them. That's fine.
Go ahead and announce them because those movies will never get made.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like, let's start talking about Venom in 2018, guys. Aquaman is scheduled for I think November 2018. It's already been filming. Venom hasn't even been cast outside of Eddie. I guess he's playing Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy. Nobody else has been cast. I think they have a director now. They barely have a script. It's like, how's that movie? It's a new Gambit. It's a new Gambit film. Oh, no, it's coming out in 2018. It's coming out in 2018. Oh, it's coming out in 2019. Well, it's going to come out in 2020. Sure. Okay.
Hey, Chris, you know when it's coming? You know what's coming?
Never.
Soon. Soon.
When it's done.
You'll get it when you get it, goddammit. Right. Some of these questions.
That's why I got mad when they when they got a black woman for a director of Silver and Black. Hey, that's great. Have you even cast the main characters? No. Are we getting castings on that? No.
Does this black woman know you're using her name to spread your lies?
Which is why I got so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let people get angry. I'm not gonna be a wet blanket. I'm gonna let people have their joy. But I'm like,
does she know?
Right. I'm like, if you don't put this film out, you're looking even worse. So, it came out with the whole thing with Amy Pascal. Oh, well, Silver and Black and Venom are they're adjunct to Spider-Man Homecoming. And Feige was like, no, you guys need to go ahead and clarify that shit. It ain't got nothing to do with MCU.
Those movies aren't coming out.
Yeah.
It's like, those movies aren't actually happening.
Yeah, don't do that. I mean, and here's the thing.
Those movies are lies.
Here's the thing. Maybe they do. Let's say they do come out.
Chris, no.
No. Let's play with that. Because here's the thing. It still leads back to the MCU. Let's say you do this way. Let's say Sony all of a sudden gets more brilliant than they've ever been, and they go out and decide they're going to get Miles Morales, and you have a Miles Morales film that picks up right after Tom Hardy's trilogy ends and stuff like that. Here's the thing. People are going to start going, all right, so when does Miles Morales join the MCU? Like, you're stuck. Like, once you put Spider-Man in there and you've shown the ability to do this, you're in. It's the first hit of crack is free. That's what this is. Like, people are never going to be okay with those films not being in the MCU now. I do believe that there is a space for standalone films and standalone superhero films. But that's not even what Sony's doing. They're trying to make a connected universe. They're not making a standalone Venom film, which, honestly, that could work. I'm not saying it should, but it could. If it's just one alone, you're not making any other films, you're not trying to make a sequel, you're not trying to do anything else, you have one specific story to tell with that one character for one movie only, maybe you could do it. But here's the thing. But that's not what they're doing.
Just a reminder, Chris is the nice one. That's not possible.
Well, no. I'm saying it could happen, but I could also hit the lotto tomorrow. Like that's when I say they could happen, I'm saying, yeah, it's possible. Is it likely to happen? No, it's not likely to happen. It's not going to happen. What's going to happen is the way, because Sony is not forward enough thinking with that, and they're stupid in the way they're going about this by announcing these other movies and clearly having no plan. And that's why Amy Pascal said, oh, well, no, we're just going to ride the coattails of the MCU and say that it's a junk, and Disney and Marvel's like, oh, no, you're not. No, let people know that those films have nothing to do with what we're doing. We're not going to put Venom in our films. We're not going to touch on those things. Nope, don't do that at all. So, yeah. But I just found it interesting that, particularly when I was reading through some of the stuff we were going through here, seeing how many of these characters Marvel actually has rights to. Because they're so tied to Daredevil rights. And even if Marvel didn't get them, it shows that Sony was always fucked, because originally Kingpin and belonged with Daredevil over at Fox. So Sony didn't even get Sony got Spider-Man and stuff like that, but like having Spider-Man and again, Spider-Man's great as a solo character, but you really need you need the larger world, because it's really nice to see.
He works best when you juxtapose him against strong villains and strong fellow heroes.
Right.
That it's easier to show why Spider-Man's great when you're putting him next to somebody who maybe isn't Spider-Man.
Like I was seeing an article today. It was like Spider-Man. Spider-Man: Homecoming shows that you don't have to destroy the world to be a good superhero film. And I'm like, okay, now every movie has destroyed the world, but okay, let's go with that. But it's also kind of true. It's like Spider-Man's villains have almost never been the I'm trying to blow up the entire world villains. Like some of them just been heist, or we're gonna do this, or we're gonna, they've kind of been small time sometimes. Sometimes he's just flying around the city beating up people that are crooks. It's just that's what it is. So yeah, when you take out some of the lifeblood of the the Marvel New York universe, which is, you take out the Defenders, which is Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Daredevil, particularly those top three. You take them out. You take their villains and those people that interact with out. You take out somebody like Kingpin, who is literally, the centerpiece of the underworld in New York. Like, you don't really have a lot to work with. You have some things, and you could tell a story here or there, but it has to be a great fucking story. But it's also hard to sustain because you're missing some of the biggest pieces, So, yeah. Anyway, I just want to bring that up before we go into what we're going to talk about with Peter Parker. All right. So in this era, so we finished off with the original Clone Saga.
And just so everyone knows, we're going to put a pin in that Clone Saga thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to circle back to that, and I'm going to have a long talk with you, the listener, and Chris, and convince everyone what a great... It's not great, but no, stop laughing. How about that? How about you stop laughing?
I'm letting you have your time.
No, I don't want my time. Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. It's unfairly maligned. It may have gotten a little bit out of hand. There's a good story at the core of it. They did a 6-issue miniseries, I think, in 2011, where it's Todd Knock drawing it, and I forget who wrote it, but it's just them distilling the Clone Saga into 6 issues. And I was like, well, that was better. It's true. It would have worked better with like some better editors, Tom Harris, or is it DeFalco? It does not matter. Everyone who touched this thing is at fault for how it sprawled. But I read the Clone Saga as I was reading this for this time, and I'm ready. I'm ready for that argument.
And I am so glad that it wasn't during this part, because there's a lot to go through. Like I got to start preparing for that. And again, I know the general concept, but I've never actually read the second Clone Saga. I haven't. So I
wouldn't read the whole thing.
Right. I'm gonna try to narrow it down. So
yeah, I would find the core books.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot.
A lot happens.
Yeah,
I really can't. I regret some of it. I really can't.
I made the mistake the first time we were going through the first Peter Parker thing, and I was trying to find the original Clone Saga stuff, which is only 6 books, 6 issues.
Issues 143 through 151.
Yeah, so it's not that many. It's not that many issues, right? And I made the mistake of just putting in Clone Saga, and it gives you the second one. And I was like, wait a minute. It can't be this many books. I'm looking at these books. I'm like, this can't be right. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Wait, Spectacular. What the? And I was like, okay, wait a minute. This is the second one. This is what's going on. Like, it's a lot of books. It sprawls. But this is the thing that happens. One of the things we talked about with we were talking about Blackest Night with Jeff Johns. I mean, there's a good story there, but sometimes it just gets. It sprawls. It gets lost. You lose your footing, and you get, you float out into the drift. So. So anyway, in this era, we get Amazing Spider-Man is doing really well, so we end up getting 3 more books. And this is when the sprawl starts happening. You get Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. Jerry Conway comes back. I think that starts in December 1976. Then you get Web of Spider-Man that starts right around the time of the alien costume. I can't remember. It's sometime in the 80s. I can't remember exactly when Web of Spider-Man starts. And then you have the third book is Marvel Team Ups, where basically it's Spider-Man teamed up with somebody else the entire time, and I can't remember.
So when people tell you that Marvel cheated in their universe by taking those popular heroes and making one, I need you to recognize that they launched a book in the 80s strictly about giving other characters shine by putting them with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was the purpose of Marvel Team Up. It was, let's expose these characters more by sticking Spider-Man on the cover with them.
Yeah, I mean that's literally all it is. Let me look through some of these.
It's not to say they're bad. They're not bad.
Oh no,
It's just that's what they are.
Yeah, I mean it's a way to, like you said, team up. Where I had them. Where did I put them at? I had them in my little list here. I mean, there's a lot of them there. Do I not have it? Maybe I don't have it. Okay, maybe I don't have them. So anyway, but yeah, there's a bunch of Marvel teams like, and it's not just like characters you've seen it before, like Spider-Man and Human Torch. No, there's just a lot there.
I think there's a great Nightcrawler story in there.
I think there might be. Let me see. Here we go. Yeah, there's like Spider-Man and Killraven. It's just like let's see. Yeah, it starts in 1972 to 1985. So the first three are Human Torch. Then there's Spider-Man and the X-Men, Spider-Man and the Vision, Spider-Man and the Thing, Spider-Man and Thor, Spider-Man and the Cat, Spider-Man and Iron Man. Spider-Man and Werewolf by the Night. It gets kind of strange. It gets kind of strange. It gets kind of strange. Spider-Man and the Falcon, Spider-Man and Hercules, Spider-Man and the Black Panther. Like they literally just do that. Like it's Spider-Man and insert character.
Right.
And it's there's a lot here. Spider-Man and the Hulk, Spider-Man and Daredevil. Some of these make sense. Some of them are just like, what? Like Spider-Man and Red Sonja. I just like, yeah. See the one I think is number 89 is Spider-Man and Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Moondragon.
That one.
Spider-Man and Doctor Doom. Because why not? And so it basically runs 150 issues too, and it ends with Spider-Man and the X-Men. So. Yeah, it's just, that's what you do. A Spider-Man and Frogman.
So what you're saying is so that's the other thing that I noticed doing this and talking about this is that the complaints of like, these characters are everywhere. Why is Wolverine in so many books? They had 4 Spider books in the 70s.
Well, and again, it goes to show you that when people say this stuff, I think it's that thing that social media amplifies what people think they know because now everybody's saying the same thing. It's like back in the day, nobody complained because, well, you might not even know about these books.
Right. You might read the books that you liked.
Right. You got the books you liked. You didn't complain. If Marvel Team Ups went away, nobody was like, oh, well, my Marvel Team went away. I got other Spider-Man books and that was it. Like people were complaining about, they did it with Black Panther. We're like Black Panther and the Crew, Word of Wakanda, and the Black Panther book was like, oh, that's too many books. I'm like, Spider-Man literally, and again, while Marvel Team Ups goes away, we know for a fact that the Spider-Man, you get Web of Spider-Man, you get the Spectacular Spider-Man. I think at one point there's Sensational Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man. There's a regular just Spider-Man itself book. Like it gets to the point where Spider-Man has at least like 5 to 6 books out at a time. So when people say this today about, oh well, it's just too many books for Black Panther, I'm like, he only has 3. He only has 3. And one of them isn't even really him. It's his world, but it's World of Wakanda, and it's not really him. Like, guys, Spider-Man had a lot of fucking books. I don't even. When does the Spider-Man? It's this single Spider-Man. Because that's like the 90s, isn't it? I think that one starts in the 90s.
Adjectiveless Spider-Man came in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one comes in the 90s. It's like
I think it's the same way they did the adjectiveless X-Men.
Yeah, they go with the X-Men. X-Men had the Uncanny X-Men. You had X-Men. I'm gonna be honest here. X-Factor was just the X-Men at first. It was. It was. Come on. You trying to tell me?
Okay, so we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
We're not doing this. I'm just saying. They split them off, but it's still the X-Men.
I'm not doing this with you right now.
Okay, all right. We'll get to that later. I'm just saying. But I mean, it's that thing or the X books. It's just, it's a thing that happened, and some of them go away, some of them don't, some catch on. It's just, I don't know. It's this weird thing where I think people do more complaining than actually understanding the history of this stuff. That, like you said, in the 70s, 70s and 80s, you had 4 books with Spider-Man in them.
Yep. And
that doesn't include any other crossovers. These are 4 ongoing books. I believe that they said for Peter Parker and the Spectacular Spider-Man, the idea was, and I think Jerry Conway said this at first, the idea was for it first to start on like, almost kind of like what Detective Comics is doing, where it's like, oh, we're going to kind of give some stories on some of the side characters a little bit and do it that way. And I don't think it lasted that long because it just becomes another main Peter Parker book. So yeah, what can you say? So as we go through this, I think the main 2 books we're going to be talking about are obviously The Amazing Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man. Again, I didn't really do any Marvel team up readings. I mean, I again, not saying they're bad books. If you want to go, again, I have to go. I'm going to go try to find that Nightcrawler one.
There's some good ones in there. Like there's the Captain Universe when Spider-Man gets Captain Universe powers. Like there are good stories in there. It's just I don't feel like they're crucial to understanding the character.
Right. Yeah. I think again, good stories, not crucial to understand the character. We'll get to Web of Spider-Man again once the alien costume comes in. We'll come back to that one there. But again, the main 2 were the Spectacular Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, and the Amazing Spider-Man. So we're kind of breaking this up a little bit different. We're not going to kind of go 100% in chronological order here. I first want to talk a little bit about, because again, I guess the biggest thing, 2 of the biggest things that happened last Character Corner were the death of Gwen Stacy and her eventual return in the Clone Saga, right? When she's not really her, but she's a clone. And just the idea that, right, and the idea that Gwen Stacy, love of Peter Parker's life, and that comes in later on, and you see this that it's an ongoing. Gwen Stacy is always an ongoing presence, an ongoing reminder to Peter, and you see that throughout these issues. And I love the fact. I mean, we were talking last week about fridging characters, but I love the fact that they do that with her. That she's always a constant reminder, and not just a reminder of I failed her, but a constant reminder to Peter that you know what, that's the love of my life. Like this comes into play when he is marrying MJ. He's literally like the night before thinking about does he want to go through with it because the love of his life is Gwen Stacy and she's gone. So and I just want to say real quick, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later on, but MJ definitely fucked Bruce, right?
Man, why?
I'm just saying it was kind of weird. We'll get to that in a minute. All right. I guess the 2 main.
How you like this?
Dude, are you telling me you never read that issue and went, that's kind of weird? 3:00 in the morning, the day before your wedding, you get picked up by this rich guy in a Ferrari who has been courting you, and you're talking about, I just need somebody to think about, and you show up to your wedding late the next day. Are you trying to tell me she did not?
Let's go with the podcast, Chris.
This is part of the podcast. We're dealing with this. Like I'm just saying, I don't trust some redheads. I'm just going with that. Okay. Anyway, the 2 big.
I can't. I'm not allowed to say anything, right?
I'm just saying.
Redheads are the best people on the planet.
I'm just saying.
What do you want me to say?
Just saying. In this case, this specific case with MJ, you telling me you never never had them doubts?
I find redheads to be trustworthy and well-appointed people.
Well, good answer, sir. Good answer. You passed the test.
Thank you.
So the two main, I guess love interests for Peter during this time are obviously Felicia Hardy and as Black Cat and MJ. And I guess we'll start with the Black Cat one. She shows up in Amazing Spider-Man 194, and she also plays a good piece in the Owl Octopus War, which is Spectacular Spider-Man 73 through 79, with Dr. Octopus really trying to kill her. after she's been put in the hospital, he's and Peter's professing his love for Felicia, and I mean, to me when I read this, it kind of reminds me of. It's a lot like the the Bruce and Selena relationship. You know, here you have the crime fighter and you have the thief, and it also happens that she's also the Black Cat and Selena is Catwoman. You know, it's there's a lot there. The difference to me is, again, it goes back to what we said about the difference between Spider-Man and Batman in this case. You have a lot of Peter Parker here. And so
much Peter Parker.
And so, like, I think what they're doing right now, like what Tom King is doing right now with Batman and Selena, like he's making Bruce matter in that case and making Bruce feel like a real boy. But this was already happening back in, the 70s and 80s with what they were doing with Peter Parker. Like,
it's the Marvelization of Batman. Like, Marvel has a certain writing style, and it's proven out over time that that's one that people find more relatable. And that's why you see DC taking those cues.
Right. And so, what I really love about this is, it's just like I said, you get to see Peter, like, especially during the Spectacular Spider-Man 73 and 79, you're really getting to see Peter, like, again, it's thought bubble error. So you're getting a lot of these thought bubbles of Peter professing his love and thinking, I think I really love this girl. I know this is wrong. I shouldn't care about her as much as I can. She's a criminal, but you're seeing how this is affecting Peter, and he's having to. She gets put in the hospital. He ends up at one point selling all these pictures to try to pay for her hospital bills. He's doing all this stuff because this is a woman he believes he loves, and it's just an interesting dynamic. And it's one of those things that when MJ comes back, I guess his first proposal to MJ is Amazing Spider-Man 183. So yes. Black Cat shows up after he had first proposed to MJ. And what you find here, and this is an interesting thing I find about all of Peter's relationships are, he's a mess.
Well, not just that, he is a mess, yeah, but I like the way the relationships are portrayed throughout this, as particularly this part of the book, because like we said, like we're going to focus on different relationships. The thing about the Black Cat one is she's not a consistent presence.
Right.
She's there, they break up, then he dates someone else. Mm-hmm. Something else gets in the way, they break up, and then it's always the Black Cat's always there at the end. So it was less of a will they won't they, it was more of a it almost felt more natural, because even like if you look at like Superman books, there's always been a Lois Lane. Mm-hmm. Barry Allen's always had Iris West. Like there's always felt like a one true love in each book. For Peter Parker in the 70s, it was like, this guy can't get his fucking act together, and these women are leaving him because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just something that, if I read it today in a mainstream big 2 superhero book, it'd be refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, when I say he's a mess, I mean, I think it's a great... they portray relationships with Peter Parker as a mess like normal relationships are. He's
Chris,
torn.
Guess what? If I was 20-something and had super spider powers, my life would also be a mess.
No.
Shocking. As a 20-something without spider powers, my life was a mess.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, add in the fact that the love of your life also died because you were a superhero.
Yeah, you might have killed her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, and that's why I say that it's a mess and it seems crazy. And you see, like, you have people not understanding what they want. You have Peter not understanding what he wants. You have MJ not understanding what she wants. You have Felicia not understanding what she wants. It's like, hey, what do I do? It's like, he loves me, but because at one point, what issues were when I don't have the issue down here, because at one point she's giving her bad luck powers by Kingpin. I can't remember what issue it is. I'll have to find that and put that in the show notes. There's one thing I was supposed to do before I got in here.
Spectacular 89.
Spectacular 89. Okay. And she's given these powers, and again, it's another one of the things, just working with Peter, and Peter's like, she's come back into his life. So this is at the time MJ has turned him down. She comes back into his life. She has these powers, and he's there for her. And it's just this constant, he basically has this constant force between, I guess, that first proposal with MJ at 183, and when he asked her the second time and she finally says yes, which I believe is 290.
290. Yeah. He asked in 290. 292 is the acceptance.
Okay. So,
which is, by the way, a lot of restraint from a lot of authors to wait over 100 issues.
Oh, and that's what I was going to say. So it's like, basically what you get in that time frame is you get basically Peter jumping between two women. And it really comes down to
Even more than two, because think about Deb Whitman's in there too.
right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. So
Betty
Deb's
Brant
in there.
stuff too, like
Right.
the lingering Betty Brant stuff.
Right.
Like that's the thing I liked about this is it felt like someone who was at that age in a big city, like just dating around.
Right.
It didn't feel like any of these relationships is destined to something greatness because Gwen's dead. Like that void is so real for those, like you said, 100 issues between proposals.
Yeah.
That he's trying to fill that space in his life, and there's a lot of successes and failures as Spider-Man that come in, but Peter Parker's never complete because he feels adrift.
Well, yeah, and again, it goes down to it's basically who's there. It's that what was it? Was it the Dave Chappelle joke about how Bill Clinton picked Monica Lewinsky? It was just like he opened the door and it was the first thing he saw. Like it sometimes it comes down to that with Peter Parker. Sometimes it's just like, oh well, she's giving me attention now, and I'm hurt. Because again, the other thing you got to remember is because they made Peter Parker real and him matter, you see everything, and you the reader see this, but the people in his life don't. You see all the shit that Peter's going through as Spider-Man. And what issue is it that MJ finds out? Because she says
MJ reveals she knows.
Yeah, because she's known for a while.
She reveals it in 257.
All right, so she's known since 257. She finds out in 257. I can't remember when if they ever tell you when she actually found out in there, but she reveals that 257. That's the first time, outside of Felicia, that Peter has somebody who can finally understand what he's going through. And that's another interesting thing too, because what they do, and this is something we talked about when Gwen Stacy died, they also matured MJ. You also start getting MJ trying to battle the idea of, can she love Peter Parker as Spider-Man? Can she handle knowing that he's going out there risking his life every night? That adds a certain level of other thing to their relationship. It's like, is one thing, like, and I guess that's another reason why Felicia was such an interesting and attractive love interest for Peter. It's like, this is somebody who knows what I'm going through.
Right.
But at the same time,
I think for the MJ thing, well, for Black Cat, she knew both sides, but she knew him as the Spider first.
right.
MJ knowing him as Peter and then trying to reconcile the Spider-Man parts afterwards, I think that was honestly why it was written to work.
And I'm glad you brought that point up, because with Felicia knowing him as Spider-Man first and then as Peter Parker, she never gets that. She kind of gets it, but she never really gets that Peter Parker side of Peter, right? She's always there about Spider, you can just go out and do this. With MJ, she kind of gets both sides. Because he didn't tell her at first, and she doesn't like the fact that he didn't tell her at first, but she can see that this is somebody who's literally carrying the weight of the world on his shoulder. He doesn't do Spider-Man because it's fun and because he has power. He does it because he feels like he has no other choice. He feels like it's a responsibility, and she sees that in them, and she doesn't know if she can also partly take that weight on, and if he will even let her do that, you know? And so you see that, like you said, it's for the time period, and I don't even say for the time period, just in period writing, the way they drew this, they draw this out, and they get there. I think they do. It's surprisingly restrained, and I think that particularly when you know that Gwen, how he felt about Gwen Stacy, it's even more restrained, because it's just like, wow, that's, you didn't have to go that way. You could have done so many other things, and you didn't. You went actually with showing that Gwen still matters. It's not him abandoning Gwen, like as I was joking before. There's this so let me see if I can find it. So like there's one part where I think Peter's like sleeping the day before the wedding, and he's imagining he's in his costume, and he's marrying MJ, and he sees that Gwen shows up. And Gwen comes up and says, I just had to say goodbye, Peter. So goodbye. And she's like, forever. And he's like screaming like, Gwen, don't go. You know, he's like, this is somebody that he loved. He ends up going to the top of the Brooklyn Bridge where she died. And he's like, I have to make a decision, Gwenny. I swear to you, you be my girl always. And here I am, about to marry someone else. But I love Mary Jane, of course. I loved you, too. And you died because of it. But it was your choice to be with me, wasn't it? You never complained. Oh, Gwen, I don't know what to do, what's right, what's fair. Help me. You know? This is, I mean, I think that the way they did it was particularly when you kill off, it was supposed to be the love of his life, you know, all those issues before. It's a pretty good way of doing it and having him come around, and it feels real. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like one of those. It doesn't, you know what it doesn't feel like? It doesn't feel like that Storm T'Challa marriage.
Right.
Yeah, I fucking said it. That was good. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that was really well done. And, yeah, so. Anyway, had to get that out of the way, you know, because I think the lives are important. But let's get into some of these arcs here that are definitely good. I guess, do you want to do the Death of Jean Dewolff first? Or is there one you want to do before this?
Well, hold on, let me pull it up because I got my little timeline in front of me. Yeah, there's some stuff I want to touch on before that.
Okay, go ahead and start.
Well, if you go to Spectacular Spider-Man 25, you get Carrion for the first time, which is going to be a problem and tie into our Clone Saga from stuff from next time. But I like the fact that even this early, and you say this early because obviously we're sitting in 2017, but at this point, the book's willing to reference itself.
Right.
They took 25 issues in Spectacular Spider-Man to go back to the Clone Saga. Amazing Spider-Man 200, Peter tracks down the burglar.
Yeah.
That he was chasing that night when Uncle Ben died, and burglar was dying of a heart attack, and he reveals who he is. But that's when he dies. We get Madam Web in the beginning of the 200s. And then you also get Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut. It's a 2-issue.
Yes, I did.
I guess arc that is awesome.
Yes, I had that written down here. Yeah.
It's so Madam Web is a psychic, and if the name sounds ridiculous, it is. It's fine. It was the 70s, or was it early 80s? Excuse me. And she could see things that were happening, and it comes. Actually, Dan Slott kind of recovers the idea behind this later on, and she sees that the Juggernaut's coming, basically, and that she will die at the Juggernaut's hands, and it's 2 issues of Spider-Man trying to stop the Juggernaut. It's Roger Stern writing it, and it's entitled Nothing Stops the Juggernaut. And did you read it for this?
No, I had it written down to read it, but there was so much other stuff I didn't get around to it. But I heard it was good. I heard it was.
It's read one of those top 10 Spider-Man stories.
Exactly, and that's why I had it written down, and I was supposed to read it, and I literally got caught up in the Hobgoblin Saga, and we'll get to that later. But yes.
There was one more I wanted to touch on, which is my single favorite issue of Spider-Man of all time, 248.
Oh, so I was going to hold off on 248 because that was in the middle of the. Okay. But let's talk about it now because no, you're right. That's definitely one I read, and it's definitely
half an issue, Chris.
Yeah, it's not even a whole issue. It's literally the end. The whole issue is good, but it's the end. So it's the kid who collects Spider-Man.
So Spider-Man goes to this kid. He appears in this kid's room. That's how the story opens. In the kid's room. And he explained to him how his powers work and how he saw the pictures of himself. And at the end of it, he takes his mask off for the kid in his room and says, I'm Peter Parker, man, and I took the pictures. But you're braver than I've ever been. And the last shot is Spider-Man swinging out of the window and weeping on top of a sign that's like, I think it says Children's Cancer Ward or something to that effect.
Yeah. It's, again, basically, because what they do is, and the way they set it up is fucking amazing. It's Tim Harrison.
Letter to the Daily Bugle.
Yeah, so it's a letter to the Daily Bugle, which is Tim Harrison, this kid, the biggest Spider-Man fan of all time. Like, he's just Spider-Man's biggest fan. And he collects Spider-Man memorabilia. He's written in all this stuff. And the way that it's drawn is, it looks like Spider-Man just shows up in this kid's room, like his room in a house. You see, like, a dresser. It doesn't look like a hospital room. that's the beauty of it. It looks like it's a regular room thing, and he's talking. This kid talking about, oh yeah, this is where you were fighting such and such in the bank, and we went out and we dug the we dug the shells out of the bullets out of the wall, and I kept pieces of them here, and this is what this happened here, and blah blah blah. And he asked, we go through all this stuff, and Spider-Man says, oh yeah, it's great, tell him all his powers and stuff like that. And then Spider-Man goes, he asked Spider-Man, well, can you show me who you are, blah blah blah, tell me your name. He's like, I can't do that. And Spider-Man starts walking away, and that's when he decides against it and takes his mask and talks to the kid, and you're just like, the kid's like, oh man, J. Jonah would basically shit his pants if he knew that he was paying Spider.
Pictures yourself,
right? He take pictures of yourself, right? He was like, oh no, you can't tell him that. It's fine. He's like, I won't tell anybody. And that's when you get this part, and so you get the scene of Spider-Man standing on top of the wall with saying cancer ward there, but then you also get the rest of the letter, because throughout this entire time they keep telling you, they keep showing you pieces of the letter. Right, and so when Spider-Man's standing there, they show the piece of letter, and they're like, yeah, they're saying he has leukemia, and the doctors think he only has 2 weeks to live. And it's literally one of those gut punch issues that just like, damn, yo, that's fucking sad. That's fucking sad. Like it gets you. It's a great little story there, but man, that was a good one, yo. That was, yeah. Love that issue, but again, it's things like that. You see this, and it's the humanizing fight. We'll get to this when we talk about Kraven's Last Hunt. What was like when what was the name of the criminal that died? That Spider-Man shows up to the little to the bar and gives him gives him money, but it's one of the things. It's like, yo, listen, like you see that Peter Parker's a real person. Like this is just. I don't know. This to me, the themes about this entire run that we're going through right now is one, and this is very, very important. New Yorkers are rude as shit. All right, that's just they're rude as fucking shit. Like at one point, Spider-Man stops like Thunderbolt, and they get mad because he calls a really bad traffic backup, and they were pissed at that. He's like, I literally just saved your asses. But also just like you get even more humanizing. You get Peter growing up, but you see that you get all of the weight of the world on him. Like you get the idea of him, and this comes up when we talk about a superior Spider-Man, him pulling his punches and not using his full strength, and having to worry about certain things that you wouldn't think that a guy with superpowers would have to worry about. But you get that here, and it just makes the stories even more compelling. Like he cares, It's that thing that sometimes you don't think about. Like, hey, a supervillain is a supervillain fighting a hero, and there might be collateral damage. Like Spider-Man cares about that stuff because it doesn't matter if he wins at the end of the day. Here's the thing: even when he wins, there's still some times that Peter loses.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it gets to him. So, all right, you got anything else?
That was it. I just think also the fact that while reading this, I ran into like 7 of my favorite top 10 Spider-Man stories.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
It's like a super rich block of books that we read for this time.
Yeah, this is a lot of good stuff in here, guys. Like I said, before we get into the Death of Jean Dewolff, the Our Octopus War is really good. Spectacular Spider-Man 73 through 79. Dr. Octopus versus the Owl, and that's when you get Dr. Ock, getting pissed at, and becoming this unstoppable force to come after and kill Black Cat. It's like, oh no, you guys have, like there's that one scene where so at this point, Octopus's arms, they're in the metal and stuff like that, but they aren't 100% reinforced. Spider-Man rips them off. Mm-hmm. And there's that scene where I think Spider-Man's in the hospital with Black Cat, and you have another scene where Octopus, they're reattaching his arms. And he tells us like, this would be more easier if we put you under. He's like, no, I want to feel this pain, so I know. You basically get Otto like, I want to know this pain, so Spider-Man knows the pain. I'm gonna give him back tenfold. Like,
it's Otto getting his Darth Vader at the end of Revenge of the Sith on.
Yes, like
I need this pain.
Yo, it is like one of those. That might be a problem later on. Like, I'm not sure, but
I found that one for later because that looks like that could be an issue.
Yeah, just think that Otto might be he might be a little pissed when this comes back, and it literally turns into. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me, and we're talking about the Marvelization of Batman. It really reminds me of the I am Bane storyline, where Bane comes back and is going through all of Arkham Asylum to get to Batman. It reminds me of that because it's just like Bane is just on some. He's a one-man wrecking machine. He's like, fuck this. I'm killing everybody. You pissed me off for the last time. Like, I'm going through this shit. Like, it's just, it's happening. I'm trying to see if I can find the actual issue where his arms come back. Because I think it's got to be 75. I think it's Spectacular Spider-Man 75. But he is just like, Otto is just, he is pissed. Again, and the way they draw it and the way you see it, you see this look on his face, and he's just like, I'm gonna murder everybody and everything you ever loved. I'm gonna kill so many. And
you realize again that this is probably a 22-year-old Peter Parker.
Yes. This is not.
And all this shit, like, let's not lose track of this. This is a guy who just kind of graduated college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's 76 has it. I still don't see it.
76 is when Black Cat's in the hospital, Doc Ock gets his arms back. She comes for her in 78, and he gets arrested in 79.
Yeah. He and again, you got to remember because the Ock's arms are attached to his nervous system, and he felt every bit of that. And again, it kind of goes back to the idea, Peter gets angry. Peter can get angry. Yeah. It's the last. It's the last panel of 76, and like the look. Oh damn it! I just had it. The look on his face is just one of pure, just like, yeah. He's like, no, I don't want to be sedated. I want to feel the pain. I want to know that a cursed Spider-Man and his beloved cat are going to feel. I want to know how that accursed Spider-Man and his beloved black cat are going to feel when Dr. Otto Octavius tears them limb from limb. And just the look on the rage. It like the last panel is this look of rage in his eyes as he says this. and what's funny is that because they always put the little tag for the next issue. It says at the bottom is next month, no more Mr. Nice Guy. And I'm just like, really? I'm just not gonna be good. Not gonna be good at all. So, yeah. So that's a really good one there. Also in this one you get again, it's not the first appearance of her, but you get a little bit of Jean Dewolff. Captain Jean Dewolff from the NYPD. She's helping. Again, Spider-Man's relationship with the NYPD is never good. But I would say under Jean Dewolff, even though she's a little standoffish, there's an understanding, and she helps tremendously with. Making sure Black Cat gets to the hospital and making sure that she's protected as much as they can protect the NYPD, protect them from an enraged Dr. Octopus. So you get this there, right? You get this idea that you have, Peter has some friends somewhere, or at least people that are cordial to him in and
you can spot these people because they have bullseyes on them.
Yes. These people never last long.
Gwen Stacy, peace, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I love, I've said this before, and I don't rank stories, but if I did rank Spider-Man stories, we're talking about a top 3 story for me.
You talking about the Death
The
of Jean
Death of
Dewolff?
Jean Dewolff. And it's like, you got to think about it. It was written in what? I want to say 84, 85.
Right now. Yeah.
So the year I was born, it was written. It is a suspense thriller, and it was the first time, not for me, I guess probably the first time for me, but probably one of the most clear times that, like, oh, you can just tell a Spider-Man story. There's very little Peter in the story.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to make a Spider-Man ally outside of them, who is an ally to the Mask, have deaths have such an impact, because the way they write it, yeah, it's grim and gritty because it's the 80s, and God bless you, Frank Miller, for fucking everyone else over. But it's the suspense with which it's written. It's one of Peter David's early writings for Spider-Man, and it's just, you're on the edge of your seat the entire time, not just because of what happens next, how do we avenge Jean Dewolff, but what the hell is Peter going to do?
Mm-hmm.
It's unique in that it's one of the books I feel like they gave an honest depiction of what a Spider-Man close to the edge would look like.
Mm-hmm. This is so. Hold on, and I didn't have because there's actually a part 1 and part 2. There's a kind of a part 2 to this, and I had some reason I didn't have the issues down. So while you were talking, I'm trying to find the issues for that. So the first arc of this is basically Spectacular Spider-Man 107 and 110. And what you find, it basically opens, and I love the way this opens, because this doesn't open where like a normal like you would think normally this would open, right? It opens with a story basically about Jean Dewolff. It goes through with her kind of narrating her life, about how her father was a police inspector and her mom hated that idea because she felt like he could die at any point. But she idolized him. Then she left her husband because of that. But then she ended up marrying somebody else who also was a police officer, and he wanted her to be he gave her the attention. She ended up wanting to be just like this man and her dad, and he was so proud of her and all this other stuff. And it's going through all this stuff, and she's talking about it kind of ends. He wants me to be the first woman police commissioner, and he knows the only way to get there is if you're totally driven. So he's holding the smile until that day. I'll get that smile out of him yet. What's the pounding at the door in my head? I wonder why I feel so relaxed, and I wonder why was I thinking of my life just now. And what you find out is right after that is you find out she's been killed. Mm-hmm. And it's a great thing because one, you also find out that the thing I like about this is because before this point, Captain Dewolff has been she kind of standoffish. She's a go-getter, but she hasn't really been warm to Spider-Man. But what Peter finds out later on as Spider-Man, he finds out that she's been tracking him the entire time, that she actually was a fan. And so Peter finds out that he has somebody who actually was an admirer. And that fuels him even more to trying to find out who's killing her. They introduce this character, Sin Eater, who's going around and basically a serial killer. And he's killing all these people.
If you thought Spider-Man never got grim and gritty 80s, congratulations, serial killer.
Oh, God, he kills a priest.
Yeah.
He kills a judge. He kills a judge in front of fucking Daredevil as Matt Murdock. Like, it blows the judge away. The judge is on his knees praying, begging for this man not to shoot him. And it's an interesting thing because Daredevil, again, is as Matt Murdock. And he hesitates. He's like, I could do something to blow my cover, but he doesn't. And so that sits with Matt Murdock. It's like, I could have stopped this from happening, but I didn't because I was worried about my secret identity. Like, this is just a great, gritty story that you said was 84?
85.
85? I mean, for the 80s, I mean, this is actually a really great story.
Like, and you and I have had this discussion before, particularly when we talked about Secret Wars when we did the review. Mm-hmm. This was what comic books turned into in the 80s.
Right.
The success of Watchmen and the success of Dark Knight Returns, it was how can we out-gritty each other? And this was Spider-Man's first foray into gritty. And then you're like, oh shit, this works. Right. Like, it works really well, and I'm a little unnerved about how well it worked.
Right. I mean, So Sin Eater, his first victim was Jean Dewolff. Second one was Judge Horace Rosenthal, a friend of Matt Murdock. And again, at this point, you also get because they do this thing where at this point, Aunt May is dating it's Nathan. I can't remember Nathan's last name.
Oh, I see him
because he had gotten roughed up by some juvenile delinquents, right? And Matt Murdock was the and at this point, Matt Murdock and Peter don't know each other as their secret identity. Matt Murdock doesn't know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't know Matt Murdock is Daredevil, right? Rosenthal is the judge. The next victim that the Sin Eater was going after was Betty Brant, but only because he was trying to go after what's his name? Jay Jonah.
Right.
But Jay Jonah wasn't there. And so also this time, so Dared is an interesting thing they do. Because Matt Murdock helps these juvenile delinquents get bail after roughing up Nathan, Peter has his moment where he's yelling at Matt Murdock, and Aunt May's like, because he's like, what he says something like insensitive to blind people. It's like, what you can't see? Can you not see what's going on with your own? He's like, and Aunt May's like, Peter, he's like Peter, but
you were right until you were so fucking wrong, Peter.
Right. But the key point of that part is Matt Murdock can hear his heartbeat and realizes that that's Spider-Man.
Yep.
He doesn't know that it's Peter Parker. He only hears the first name, Peter. And that comes back in later on. And so you find out that Peter's going after. So Betty Brant, who's also at one point not together, but the first woman that Peter Parker was dating and had a love with. So at this point, Peter as Spider-Man is just out of his fucking mind. So he's beating the fuck out of. And at this point, also, Sin Eater had killed some bystanders because he aimed at Spider-Man and Spider-Man ducked out of the way, but the bullets hit a person behind him and killed another man. So Peter's just enraged, and he's beating the fuck out of Sin Eater. And Daredevil eventually, he is getting in a fight with Daredevil, and Daredevil ends up stopping him. But then, so they end up finding out that Sin Eater is the cop that that Spider-Man was working with. They're trying to find out the killer of Jean Dewolff. It is Stanley Carter, which I thought was another great little reveal. The way they hid that, because you don't see it coming. Because you find out that the trigger for Stanley Carter was his partner dying, which gets mentioned in that first issue. In the issue 107, it gets mentioned there. And so, and he also kills he kills a judge, and kills a priest. And I think that they never find, at this point, they don't tell you the reason why he killed Jean Dewolff. They don't understand why he did it, because the judge, they were like, he was lenient on like criminals. Oddly enough, he killed the preacher because he was against the death penalty, which I'm like, that seems a little.
Wait a second.
Well, dude, okay. And then he was going after Jay Jonah for, I can't remember what the reason for Jay Jonah, but he had a reason for going after Jay Jonah.
Reason.
Huh? Yeah, pick a reason. Because we don't mention it here, but and it comes up later when we go into the Hobgoblin Saga. Jay Jonah is a supervillain. All right, he's the reason why the Scorpion exists. So
yes,
he funded that.
You're the Spider Slayers.
Slayers
of spiders.
Yes.
That's his back end.
Yeah. Jay Jonah is responsible for Spider Slayers and Scorpion. So yes, pick a reason for him. And so, but what I find interesting is, so when they finally arrest Stanley Carter and they take him out, and they're going to take him to jail, and they're taking him out of they're transporting him somewhere, and somehow there's a mob out there because the mob is like, oh fuck this guy, we're gonna kill this guy, and they show up and they're trying to kill him. Daredevil jumps down to stop him, and Spider-Man just like, not my fucking problem. And so Daredevil jumps down to stop him, and Daredevil's getting his ass whooped. And he turns, and Spider-Man turns, starts walking away, and Daredevil calls out Peter.
Yeah.
And so Spider-Man jumps down, saves him, and this is basically when Daredevil and Spider-Man reveal their alter egos to each other. And again, it's just a really great, I guess 4 issues. It's 107 and 110. It's a really great. It's gritty. Yeah. It's dark. I mean, it's like you see the torment of Peter dealing with Sin Eater, and what this guy is doing, and it's just like it is dark, man.
It's really bad. Like it's, and we'll talk about some more of the dark stuff they do in the 80s. But yeah, it's jarring for the character, for Spider-Man. And I really enjoyed this because if you listen to our Daredevil character corner, he gets pushed into these corners a lot. And for him to be like, Spider-Man, you're going too far. Yeah. You really got to appreciate how far Peter was going. And you also have to remember that Daredevil going too far is just a really well-trained man hurting people. Peter's lifted up but like we've watched him do these feats of strength.
Well, that comes
if he loses his focus, he could punch through someone.
Well, that comes into play in part 2 of the Death of Jean Dewolff. That happens again. What I love about this stuff is how, they're not afraid to spend a few, like when I say a few, I'm talking about like 20 to 100 issues before they come back and revisit something. So the second part of the Jean Dewolff saga basically comes in issues 132 and 134. And what it is Stanley Carter went to jail, but because what you find out is Stanley Carter used to be an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he had been injected with some drugs again because they were trying to make super soldiers, because what could possibly go wrong? And it didn't take well. And he basically went crazy because of it. And they think because his partner was killed in the line of duty, it triggered something in him and he snapped. And so he became the Sin Eater. And so when they go to trial, he ends up pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, and they send him to get treatment. And so in issue 132, he comes up, the idea of releasing him comes up. And Peter is not happy at all. He is not happy about this. And it's one of the things, again, you see a lot of eternalization of Peter. So he doesn't tell MJ what's going on. And it takes him a while to tell MJ why he's so upset about this person and what Jean Dewolff meant to him. And not even a relationship aspect of it, but just this is somebody who again, another person who was close to Peter who was killed, and he wasn't sure if her being a fan of Spider-Man is what got her killed. And so he shows up when Stanley Carter gets out. He shows up as Spider-Man at Stanley Carter's new apartment, and Stanley Carter can barely walk. And what you find out is when Peter stopped him as Sin Eater, and Daredevil had to stop him, he had unleashed on him and basically broke his fucking back, and broke bones and literally destroyed this man. But Stanley doesn't hold this against Peter. He's like, he doesn't hold this against Spider-Man. He's like, no, you doing all that shocked me out of it. It what released me. It what got me back. And he reveals that the reason why Jean Dewolff was the first victim was they were in a relationship together.
Yep.
And so you get this going on. And so what you have is this another story with Peter feeling bad about his own strength. So I think is it Shocker? Yeah, I think it's the Shocker. It's some known villain of Peter shows up. It's Electro. That's what it is. Electro shows up, and Peter now being shook because he literally snapped this man's back. He literally broke this man down when he fought. Spider-Man, Peter's now he's second guessing himself, because you also get revealed that, hey, he never had any formal training to be a fighter.
Right.
So you realize he now realizes his own strength and sees what he can do and how much harm he can cause people. So when Electro starts taking advantage of this, because Peter now starts second guessing himself, and he had a chance to stop Electro at first, but he didn't want to punch him too hard because it was like, what if I kill him? And so you get this interesting story of Peter trying to come to terms with this and eventually come and stop Electro. But then you also get Stanley Carter fighting back the Sin Eater personality. And it ends with, it seems that Carter has given in. He has put the mask back on. He had kidnapped a kid and held a gun to his head. And it turns out that the way he decided to defeat the Sin Eater was to basically suicide by cop.
Yeah.
Like, it is, like, you read both of these back to back, it's like, oh, this is fucking dark as shit, man. This is, but it's a really, really great story. You know, and I love the fact that, again, the original start ends at 110. They come back 22 issues later to finish it.
Yeah.
You know, it's done really, really well. So, is a Hobgoblin?
What was the next thing you want to talk about? You want to go Hobgoblin? Okay.
I think Hobgoblin's technically next in the. Is there anything before that in the? And there's probably some small stuff here and there, but I guess Hobgoblin. Because here's the thing: the Hobgoblin Saga is literally the longest running. Like who the Hobgoblin, and we covered this a little bit when we did the Rogue War stuff, but not only is this a long running storyline here, it's fucking good. Like, on the surface, the Hobgoblin looks like a Green Goblin.
It's Dollar Store Green Goblin.
Right. That's what you think it is. Wrong.
Very wrong.
Very, very wrong. And what I love about it is Hobgoblin's always saying, it's like, you know, the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, because at this point, again, Norman Osborn is still not back. He's dead. You know, Harry's gone. Harry's gotten out of the hospital. Harry's gone on to take over Oscorp. He's married to Liz Allen now. You know, all this happened. But the Hobgoblin basically says, look, Norman had some great ideas, but Norman was fucking crazy. This is what would happen if Norman Osborn didn't go fucking crazy. And you see that it's a fucking problem. Because you don't get the full reveal, and I'm putting this in quotes because you really technically don't get the real reveal of who the Hobgoblin is until 1997. You don't get the reveal of who Hobgoblin is. Hobgoblin shows up in issue 238. You don't get the reveal for who he is, quotes, until 289. And technically,
50 issues.
Yeah, and he never gets caught.
No.
That's
the scariest part about the Hobgoblin.
He never gets caught. You know? Like, it is... He shows up. Spider-Man doesn't really defeat him. He kind of just survives every meeting with him. And then Hobgoblin goes off and does his own thing. Like, it is... and again, the other thing, too, is Hobgoblin goes and does the thing that you saw Norman was trying to do, which is trying to run the underground, trying to get criminals together and be this criminal boss. Like, it's, yeah, it is yeah. So, basically what happens is Norman Osborn's Green Goblin lair is found by a petty criminal. He's just trying to escape. Spider-Man ends up finding this lair, and he ends up selling the secrets and selling them to somebody else who ends up killing him. So again, right off the bat, whoever the Hobgoblin is hiding and killing off who could possibly be it. And the original Hobgoblin Saga, I think, runs from, let's see, I guess it's 238 to 239. When does Arnold Donovan die?
Lefty?
Yeah, when does Lefty die?
Arnold Lefty Donovan dies. I'm not entirely sure.
Is it 245?
The reconciliation of Hobgoblin until 289. So
yeah,
for me, it's honestly a 50 issue arc because
it is.
Even though like a lot of other things happen, like the Death of Jean Dewolff happens in this, the black suit happens, but throughout the whole thing is this ongoing thing of wait, who the hell was the Hobgoblin?
Yeah,
they keep popping up and wrecking shit and vanishing, and you never get. They drop clues, and we'll talk about that when we get to Hobgoblin Lives, but. There are clues dropped throughout.
Oh, yeah. And the way they do this also is the Hobgoblin has his way of brainwashing people. Because, again, what happens is the Hobgoblin gets all of Norman Osborn stuff. And what you realize is Norman Osborn is also kind of a fucking genius and all this shit. Just that the formula he had made him go fucking crazy. And so he couldn't fully fulfill everything was there. So what happens is the Hobgoblin's technique is he ends up brainwashing people to pretend to be him. and they either get killed or they set them up so they go to jail, and then you just see Hobgoblin sitting in the background going, another patsy down. Didn't get the real one though. And so and it's such a good thing to do. So he shows up, the Hobgoblin shows up, and the first thing he realizes that he's reading all of these notes from Norman Osborn. And what the Hobgoblin realizes is that, he thinks he can take on Spider-Man because he's like reading all these notes and okay, I'm prepared for all this stuff. He even has down to the gas that neutralizes Spider-Man's spider sense. That's how Norman Osborn found out. And at one point, I love the issue where he's like, "Yeah, I wonder if he ever got his plan. I wonder if Norman ever got his plan together to use this gas to follow Spider-Man back to find out what his secret identity is." Right? I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea. He did do that." But he perfects all of this stuff. And what Hobgoblin realizes is that when he goes against Peter Parker against Spider-Man the first time is like he's not fast enough, he's not strong enough, he's missing something. And so the first arc is really him finding out that he needs to get these chemicals to redo the formula that Norman Osborn had, but make sure he's done well. Let me see if I can find the issue, because there's an issue in here where it seems you don't. He's mixing the formulas up and it explodes it blows up his house, but Lefty Donovan is there as well, and you're not sure who is who. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can find this. Go ahead while I'm trying to find this. Sorry.
No, I just think that this is one of the first times in my reading life, like, because obviously I was a child when this came out, but it was going back and reading this kind of stuff the first time. You get to find out the backstory behind why they changed the identities and why Roger Stern wasn't able to tell the Hobgoblin story he wanted to. And it's the first time, I think, in my reading experience, I was like, oh, wow, this editorial thing can really kind of step on a good story. And when we talk more about Hobgoblin Lives and kind of get to more present-day Spider-Man stuff, it's really interesting to see how it all played out and how it almost never got fixed.
Yeah. I mean, even when it technically ends the first time, I think it's 245 is when Lefty is basically infected with not infected, but gets the drugs and ends up dying, and that's who Spider-Man for a while thinks was the criminal. Yeah. So basically, here is. Yeah, according to you have, and again, they never show you. So they never show you the face of Lefty. They never show you the face of anybody else. And you see what you think is the Hobgoblin as his face, in the dark, mixing the formula, and it turns green and it blows up and it gets him in the face. And somebody comes in, and you think the person that comes in isn't. You think the person mixing it is the real Hobgoblin. You think the person coming in to save him is Lefty, and then the person who saved the person, the Hobgoblin, runs in the house. Then the entire house blows up. So you don't know who any of these people are. And then when whoever was infected, when you find out it was Lefty, when he comes to, he realizes that he must have been the Hobgoblin. So he comes in, puts his stuff on, and he goes after Spider-Man. And they fight. Lefty, Hobgoblin ends up going into the water, and you can't find it. No, he doesn't go into water. He blows up, and people go, "It's Lefty. That's what it is." And then you see at the end of this issue, the real Hobgoblin sitting there looking at the TV screen, going, "Okay, let me see what he says." He says. Donovan followed his post-hypnotic commands perfectly until the last shock started to bring him around. It's a good thing I was monitoring him. Soon my computers will have completed the analysis of the changes in Donovan's body chemistry, and I'll be able to duplicate the Osborn formula for myself without the explosive side effects. I pity Donovan had to be sacrificed, but he had outlived his usefulness to me. For the time being, the world will believe the Hobgoblin to be dead, though Spider-Man no doubt suspects the truth. If he does, all the better. Let him worry about how and when I will strike next. It'll only add to his downfall. For it shall be the death of Spider-Man, which is reported in the end. You know, I forgot the first time they fight is in 239, and in 239, Hobgoblin goes in the water, and the only thing Spider-Man thinks he's dead. The only thing he finds is his mask. That comes back later on. So, yeah. And then in 249, the Hobgoblin shows up again as well. But again, it's just one of these things that you never know who it is. I think in 249 and 251, is that when I think that's when he sets up Flash.
Yep.
Yeah. Who, by the way, again, 80s, Flash hits his wife at that time. I'm just like,
he does. It's true.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of men hitting women in this. Just like, yeah, Flash, you kind of deserve that one. You kind of deserve to go to jail. But Flash is having an affair with Betty. Mm-hmm. Having an affair with Betty, who was at that time married to Ned Leeds, which comes back later on. Yeah, so Flash ends up getting kidnapped by the Hobgoblin, brainwashed and put into the Hobgoblin gear, and the police arrest Flash thinking that he's the Hobgoblin. And again, the Hobgoblin is just pulling these strings, you know? He's like making people, you don't know who really is a Hobgoblin. At this point, you've had Lefty Donovan. You now have Flash Thompson. Like, and that's the great thing that they've done. They did with this is the covers of these issues will be like the Hobgoblin finally revealed, and you're just like, oh, I'm shocked. It's fucking Flash Thompson. And then at the end of the issue, go, oh wait, no, that's not the fucking Hobgoblin. Okay.
Basically, add another name to the list of people who might be the Hobgoblin.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then I guess the next big one here, and again, the Hobgoblin shows up every now and then here and there. But I guess the next big one is, again, another, gritty series that just brings in a bunch of characters, and it's Gang War, which runs 284 through 289. And you see the Hobgoblin's back this time, and this time he's working with the Rose, who turns out to be the Kingpin's son, and they're basically trying to take over the underworld, right? And you have who's Jack-o'-lantern? It's Jason Macendale. Yeah, Macendale. He's a Jack-o'-lantern who comes into later on being another version of the Hobgoblin, which you'll see later on. And Gang War is another one of those things because again, what I love about this is it's again at this point Peter's not trying to be Spider-Man anymore.
Right.
That's the first thing. Like, there's one point where there's a gang shootout between two different gangs, and Peter's like, "Fuck this! No, I'm going home. I'm not doing this. No." I thought it was like the most real Spider-Man like panel I've ever seen in my life. He's literally swinging, going, "No, man, why am I doing this? I'm doing it again. No, I'm going home. Let them kill each other. Fuck it." And I'm like, no, you're not wrong on that one.
Because like you look at the shit he's gone through, like I would reach fucking at some point too.
Yeah, and again, like at this point, everything's going in his life, and he's talking to MJ. He's like, "Yo, I think I want to give it up. I think I don't want to do this anymore. I think I don't want to be Spider-Man. It's too much." But again, at every point, he can't give it up because he's Peter Parker and he's Spider-Man. But throughout the second Hobgoblin Saga, basically the Hobgoblin is starting to. It's the Century Club, I think it is. I think that's the name of the club. He decides to blackmail the Century Club, which is some of the rich and famous in New York City. Among those are Jay Jonah, Roderick Kingsley, who later comes on to be the actual Hobgoblin.
That becomes a problem later.
Right, becomes a problem later on. Harry Osborn, obviously, and a bunch of, and so he has information on because he has Norman Osborn's notes, and Norman basically kept all this information on all these people himself. So, like, one of the things the Hobgoblin knows is he knows and starting to reveal G. Jonah's secret that he's the one that funded Mark Gargon being the Scorpion. And Jay Jonah, being Jay Jonah, is basically on some. I'm not gonna be blackmailed by anybody. I'm gonna come clean on it. Fuck you, which is a Jay Jonah thing. I was like, yeah, you're not
very Jonah.
I was like, you're not gonna outscoop Jay Jonah. All right, he's gonna not gonna. Nice try, but not gonna work. But the key, one of the key points here is, and again, they do a great job in this when we get into this other issue. Roger Kingsley is in the audience when the Hobgoblin shows up. That's very important to know.
Yeah.
But in this series, 284 to 289, they show the Hobgoblin getting a little bit more erratic. He becomes really more obsessed with Spider-Man, and they drop a lot of hints. And by this point, that it's clearly Ned Leeds. Like it gets to a point where before they even reveal it, like it's Ned, because the Hobgoblin at one point kidnaps Flash's wife. He's going after Flash Thompson. He's really Ned is having all these problems with Betty, and so you're seeing this obsession coming through the Hobgoblin that you normally don't see. But the other thing I like about it is it also doesn't feel like the Hobgoblin you've seen before. Because of his obsession, because of he's been so planning, he's been planning all this up before. It doesn't, like when you read it the second and third time, you're like, wait a minute. I can kind of see how you have room to say there's another brainwashed person. And so basically the way it ends is, and you get another interesting thing here where we said before, basically some of the heroes are trying to help Kingpin sneak back into the city and reestablish his empire. And that's you have Daredevil, Falcon's there, and they have to stop Spider-Man because Spider-Man's like, "Are you guys fucking out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? That's fucking crazy." But they're right in that without Kingpin there, all out gang war started. And by the way, you get the Punisher, because if there's going to be a gang war, clearly the Punisher's getting in on that shit. So
clearly,
yeah, hey, you're not going to do killing without me. So you get that in there. It all ends with the Hobgoblin getting some information, and again, it's information that again that it's Ned Leeds, because Ned Leeds wanted this information about spies in the Soviet Union during the Cold War era, and that's the information that the Kingpin gives to the Hobgoblin, and Ned Leeds and Peter Parker go to the Soviet Union, and Ned Leeds is killed there, and he's putting on his Hobgoblin gear. The Foreigner, love the name. The Foreigner shows up. His men show up, and they kill Ned Leeds there. I think at one point, because one point the Hobgoblin is trying to beat up Flash Thompson, and he reveals his face to Betty Brant, so she knows that it's Ned. I'm not sure. Yeah, Peter knew as well. Like, Peter doesn't know that Betty knew, but Peter finds out that it's Ned. In the way that they do 289 is interesting. Is 289 starts with Ned already dead.
Yeah,
and then they go back and tell you how it happened, and to me it felt like it was kind of, and this is why I love the fact that they went back and explained it later on, because it did feel kind of anticlimactic the first time you read it, because you had this 50 issue arc about who the Hobgoblin is, and he gets killed in his hotel room changing his clothes. The fuck. And that's when 1997, and again, Roger Stern, who created the Hobgoblin, wasn't happy with this and wasn't happy the way this went about. So in 1997, he does Spider-Man Hobgoblin Lives, and that's when he kind of reveals the entire story. You want to go into this one?
Yeah, it's and I'm going to include the 2-part CBR, and for what people who hate CBR, there are some good reporting done there, where they break down basically how they unveiled, how the editorial story behind it all came to be. But it all culminates in 1997, like Chris said, in Hobgoblin Lives. And the question originally was, no one ever felt that Ned Leeds made sense, like Chris said. Like, it was always like, yeah, maybe Ned Leeds had stolen Betty Brant from Peter, but like the stuff we see the Hobgoblin do in that first run, it doesn't make sense with what we know about Ned Leeds and what they've established, right?
Yeah, I mean, like he was very corporate. He was very scheming. Like there were just certain things that just didn't feel. And that's why I said during Gang War, it didn't feel like that Hobgoblin, right? It just was a little bit off. But go ahead.
No, it's how many issues was Hobgoblin Lives?
I think it was only 3.
It was just a 3-issue arc.
Yeah, I think it was just
so
a 3
for
issue.
years. This has been something that had kind of, and like when you read the editorial part, so basically Stern wanted to do one thing. He ended up leaving Spectacular because of the impending marriage of Mary Jane and Peter, and editorial got a hand on who was going to tell the story of the Hobgoblin, who's going to reveal it. The new editors didn't like the original reveal. They thought it was weak. And in 1997, they brought Roger Stern back to tell the story that he brainwashed Leeds into being a fall guy, that Roderick Kingsley was always the original Hobgoblin, that he was able to be in 2 places at once because he had a brother named Daniel Kingsley, who, while they weren't twins, which was one of big Tom DeFalco's apparent big hangups, they should at least be twins. They weren't twins, but Daniel wore a hairpiece, and I guess looked close enough to where people would accept that he was Roderick Kingsley.
And it actually worked because even when I knew it was Roderick Kingsley, I'm reading the last issue going, wait, this doesn't make any fucking sense. How is if this is if Daniel's like, is Daniel the Hobgoblin? This doesn't make, and then when that hairpiece came up, I was like, oh my god, it's a hairpiece. They still got like I knew it, and it still got me. I was just like, oh, son of a bitch.
Well, that's one thing to have known. It's another thing to people, honestly, in 97 felt like you picked up a thread that had been dropped and forgotten. And I couldn't disagree more. And we'll talk about it when we get to our 27th part of this character corner and some of the more recent comics, what they've done with the Hobgoblin thing. Because they eventually do have the War of the Goblins. They do Kingsley versus Osborn, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of time to get there. And this retcon of it's so funny because it becomes a retcon because yes, you are changing established continuity, but this was the original plan,
right? And
it's unretconning, really, to be honest.
And here's the thing: I think we use the term retcon incorrectly. Here's the thing: the way the story is written, it's not really a retcon if you're just finishing the story, though. Because do they really? If
you read it like we read it, it's not a retcon. If you read it with like 12 years in between,
okay, I got you on that one.
It's the definition of retroactive continuity.
I got you.
But yeah, so the Hobgoblin Lives miniseries, it's whatever. It's a good 3 issues.
Yeah.
But basically, they kill off Jason McIndale, who I swear to God, this all happened to him. He pretends to be he's Jack-o'-lantern, which is a knockoff of the Hobgoblin.
Right.
He then becomes a Hobgoblin. He then is possessed by a demon, becomes Demogoblin. He then becomes less demonic, but becomes Hobgoblin again, but with cybernetic implants. And then he gets the cybernetic implants taken away, and he gets killed by Robert Kingsley.
Robert Kingsley just basically on some, you were useful, and now you're done. And I'm
was like, he's watching Magneto through all this shit, like, huh.
Yeah.
All right. And then he kills him. Like, that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. Like, you're right. Like, a major supervillain like the Hobgoblin being killed off screen. And like you said, like, they don't show him death. They just see a dead Ned Leeds tied to a chair. Part of that was, and I implore everyone to read. I'm not going to read a secret article on the air. It's not good radio, not good podcasting. But at one point, it's a little editorial screaming match over, well, who's the Hobgoblin in it?
Yeah.
And he says who it is. Says, fine, it's Ned Leeds, just to shut up the other editor. And realizing that the editor was going to run forward with that shitty story, he decided to kill him in the in Amazing before he left.
Right. And
like, it's literally just office politics writ Hobgoblin.
Yeah, and that's what happened. And I love that in Hobgoblin Lives how they hit it. Like Peter realizes that because at one point they even set it up in a way that at one point in Gang War and again and this is why I think you need Spider-Man and Kingpin interacting. Because the way Kingpin and Spider-Man interact it's just amazing. Like, there's at one point where Kingpin during the Sin Eater, during the Death of Jean Dewolff, Spider-Man shows up, kicks the door down, knocks out his guard and stuff like that, and Kingpin is just sitting there going like, okay, What do you want? I don't know who it is. And Spider-Man's all threatening him, and Kingpin doesn't give a shit. And then Kingpin goes, hey, next time, can you do like Daredevil does and just knock on the door? It's like, because Daredevil just knocked on the door and asked me, and I answered the fucking question. Can you just do that? So in this one, Kingpin gives Peter Parker the information. He was like, this is who was Hobgoblin, because Ned Leeds was good friends with his son, and so that's how Ned Leeds was able to convince what was Kingpin's son's name? I want to say Aaron, but I'm not sure.
The Rose.
What was his son's name?
Richard Fisk.
Huh?
Richard Fisk.
Okay, so he was like, that's how he was able to convince Richard to be the Rose, was because they were friends. And so that's how Kingpin knew, and Spider-Man didn't want to believe it. Spider-Man was like, oh no, this can't be it. This can't be it. But then when in Spider-Man in Hobgoblin Lives, Spider-Man talking to Peter's talking to Mary Jane, and Mary Jane asks some questions like, how did those henchmen kill the Hobgoblin? And Peter's like, hey, wait a minute, you're right. How? Because wait a minute, like he's strong as shit. He's strong as like how did they kill him? It's like, oh my god, this Kingpin, this might be right. This might not be the person. And so it's a really interesting and well done thing. I like Kingsley, and I think it makes way more sense because obviously that's what the creator had in mind the entire time. Right. Especially when you find out that Kingsley had a good relationship with MJ and everything going on there. Like it's really well done. And I think that closes a loop on that. So yeah, and it turns out that the Hobgoblin is legit.
Oh, and it's also proof, and we'll get to it later, but Dan Slott is here to troll you at the highest levels when he eventually does what he does to the Hobgoblin.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So let's take a little. We're gonna go a little bit back now. I know this is again. Peter Parker is a long one, longer than the last one. We're gonna do the alien costume and the black costume right now. Just because.
Do you want to do that, or do you want to do Kraven and then go back to this costume?
Okay, well, let's do that because then we need to do all going into Venom. Then, so let's do Kraven's Last Hunt, which we covered on Rogue War, and so I think this might also have been CBR, but I found it interesting. I didn't know this, that originally this was pitched as a Batman and Joker story.
Yeah, and that's what I always tell people. It's like, hey, how do you tell the scariest Spider-Man story possible? Grab a Batman story. Yeah, and this was originally written in the late 80s it was pitched in 86, I believe, as a Batman book where Joker would bury Batman alive. Mm-hmm. And it was deemed too dark, and Marvel was like, fuck it, give it over.
It was too dark for Batman, guys.
Yes. And in 1987, James DeMatteis and Mike Zack published the final battle between Kraven and Spider-Man. And this is my favorite Spider-Man story of all time.
Yeah. It is a dark story, but it's also like I love it because also there's that, I think it's the third issue in this series. You get when Peter's fighting his way back to the living through the grave. You literally have Peter realizing that he's not just. It's literally Peter fighting with the idea that he's just a Spider-Man. It's like no, because he is Peter Parker. Like it is a really well done and well written story. It's dark as fuck, and it's one of the stories where like the villain wins.
Yeah,
I mean, like this is. If you like Empire Strikes Back because hey, I want the villain to come out on top, then you have to love Kraven's Last Hunt because Kraven wins. Kraven gets what he wants, goes out on his own terms because it's like I beat you. It also kind of in a way sets up for what happens later on with Dr. Octavius and becoming superior Spider-Man. Kraven literally wants to beat Spider-Man, then prove that he can be better than Spider-Man. It's his insanity. He needs it for himself. And like it's fucking crazy. And he does, and he's just like, hey, I'm done. Like there's these moments when he's looking at Spider-Man. It's like he's like they're friends. Like there's no hatred in his heart for it. It's like no, it's okay. It's like it's fine. Like I beat you. It's done. It's over. It's
I
okay
need to
now.
prove I was better than you. And so those of you who know the story, the bare bones version of the story, we're going to take a deeper look in a second. Kraven hunts down Spider-Man, beats the shit out of him, and shoots him in the face. And he then he buries Spider-Man, takes a copy of the black costume, and roams New York, beating up criminals.
And killing
He captures Vermin, a character who Spider-Man needed the help of Captain America to defeat, all by himself. 2 weeks pass as faux Spider-Man roams the city. This is immediately after the wedding, by the way, in case you're like, oh, Peter's life not so bad. He married a supermodel. Buried alive for 2 weeks.
Right.
After 2 weeks, the tranquilizer that he shot Spider-Man with wears off. And by the way, the scenes of where you see Spider-Man like trying to get his bearings, realizing he's got a gun. He's got a fucking gun. He's pointing the gun at me. Like, it's harrowing.
Well, he's basically like, yo, Kraven, come on, you don't use guns. You want to get down in there. You want to feel the primal rage of and do it man to man. You bring out your knife, like, come on, fight me like a man. He's like, wait, he's gonna shoot me. He's gonna shoot me. Like, he's gonna shoot me in the face. Like,
the cover of issue 4 of this series is literally a slam dunk for anyone who's ever drawn a cover. It's literally the hero crawling his way out of the grave.
Yeah,
it's beautiful and perfect. So he does crawl his way out of the grave, tracks down Kraven, and beats the hell out of him. Kraven doesn't even fight back, though. He's like, I won, dude. I beat you. Yeah. I literally replaced you and bested you. Want more proof? And with that, Kraven releases Vermin again. Because when you make up a character bad guy for a story, you use him 3 times. It's the rule. Vermin beats Spider-Man again. Kraven comes in and saves him. Kraven saves Spider-Man from Vermin. He allows Vermin to go free and says, Spider-Man, you need to pursue him, but my hunting days are over. Spider-Man goes after Vermin. Kraven goes home, thinking about his past and the peace that he now feels. He shoots himself in the head with a rifle.
Yeah.
He leaves a note admitting to burying and impersonating Spider-Man. And Spider-Man ends up beating Vermin and goes home to his wife. Because the core of the story was Kraven thought that he could be Spider-Man or replace Spider-Man by being Spider-Man. And DeMatteis said it's beautifully in an interview about the story. What Kraven's plans to do is to kill Spider-Man and then take his place, proving he can be a better Spider-Man than Spider-Man. What he becomes, of course, is not Spider-Man, but what he perceives Spider-Man to be, in a sense. What Kraven is something akin to Frank Miller's Dark Knight character. One of the things about Peter Parker with Spider-Man is he doesn't just put on the mask and become the Spider-Man. He doesn't become transformed into this dark creature of the night. No matter what costume he has, no matter what he does, Peter Parker is always a human, very human, passionate, caring guy. Kraven doesn't know that, and that is the major difference. And I think that's interesting because people will say, see, Spider-Man got dark in the 80s, but it was written as a response to those darkness stories in the 80s. It was written as a response to, you can't just put a brutalizing person in a mask and say, oh yeah, that's Batman now.
Well, so when you have Peter literally trying to crawl himself out of the grave and crawl himself back, you have this thing. It's like, all these years you've misunderstood me. You thought I was something larger than life. You thought I was magic. You thought I was madness. Some creature that crawled and spun and hid in the shadows, that mocked and tormented and revealed in darkness. Idiot, there is no spider. There's just me. Just a normal guy who got tapped on the shoulder by fate. Just Peter Parker. That's my weakness. That's my strength. Yeah. But then also play this on later on when they do Superior Spider-Man, where you have Otto going, oh, that's easy. I just put the mask on. I can be better than Spider-Man.
Right.
And you realize that no, there's more to this. You can't. It's the person under the mask. You know, it's Peter Parker. It's Miles Morales. Like, it's that. What makes them special is that they are those characters. What they go through, the torment they go through. You know, another thing you go through this here, you get a lot of Kraven's background about how crazy his mother was and what they and how what he had to do to feel like he was part of something. Like, all that stuff matters and becomes just amplified with, you know, when you put that mask on, you know. And so yeah, man, this is a really, really great story. Really, really great. And yeah. I'm not sure how it would work if you did Batman. Because...
Well, they did the story later on, I think in 90... They did a variation on it in 94. It's, because it was heavily adapted after it left Batman. It was called Going Sane. It debuted in Legends of the Dark Knight 65 through 68.
Got you. Yeah, it's just like there's a scene where Peter's been in the grave for two weeks, comes back out, comes home to Mary Jane, gets his parents together, and goes back out to stop Kraven. She's like, "What are you doing? Like, you can barely speak." It's like, I have to do this, but it goes back to just what Peter Parker is, his determination. It's like this man literally lost 2 weeks of his life. And packs it all up and still goes after there. So, yeah. So, definitely one of the great ones out there. That's Kraven's Last Hunt is Web of Spider-Man 31, 32, Amazing Spider-Man 293 and 294, and then Spectacular Spider-Man 131, 132. So it covered all three series that were out there right at the time. I would have loved it if they threw another one in there, if they also did Marvel Team Up. And they had Kraven as Spider-Man teamed up with somebody. That would also.
But that was the thing. It was so at the time it was really supposed to just run the Spectacular, but the editor saw the story was like, this is too good and too impactful, and it undercuts it. If it was Jim Salicrup who said it would undercut our story of Peter Parker's bouncing around these other books.
Yeah.
So they used all 3 books to tell the 6 issues in 2 months.
Yeah, you got to. So, yeah, makes sense. So, yeah, Kraven's Last Hunt is definitely one of the ones that was definitely good. And I guess it comes back when we do Grim Hunt. We'll be back here to talk about that. And that Kraven is not happy with losing his perfect death. Because like his gravestone says, die with honor. Here lies Kraven. He died with honor. And that's how he feels that he did. Because he went out on his own terms. He beat Spider-Man. And you got to remember, so the thing I also love about this at this point, so Norman Osborn's still not back.
Correct.
Now you just lost Kraven.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in time, you have 2 big, like, people love these characters, but you realize Norman Osborn's been dead for a long time.
A minute.
Minute. Like, we talk about how, Norman Osborn literally becomes one of Spider-Man's greatest villains. But he dies and has not been back. And we're almost 300 issues in. And Norman hasn't. When does Norman come back?
Green Goblin dies in 122.
122. When does Norman come back?
Not till 1997.
Yeah. So Norman doesn't come back.
I only say that because I own the issue.
Yeah. I mean, this is an interesting thing. So when we have people talk about, oh, you killed off this character, oh, you did this, oh, you did that, oh, you can't do this. I mean, look at what they did. They killed off what later becomes one of Spider-Man's greatest villains. And then you also have Kraven, who gets killed off here, and again doesn't come back until Grim Hunt.
I think it speaks to the depth of the villains that they've brought in, because it's able to stand. Like, you kill Norman Osborn, and you leave that gap from 1973 until 1997. Like, you're like, oh, how are we going to create characters? But that was the beauty of this concept, is they kept making new characters and kept revitalizing these themes. And the theme of responsibility is the one that rings strongest with Spider-Man. And I think when we talk about Secret Wars, it has to kind of, this is the ultimate example. And so when people don't know, so originally Secret Wars was is it 12 or 8? It's 12 issue miniseries.
Yeah, I think 12.
And in continuity, there was no like stopping of the books. All of a sudden, all your books were different.
Yeah. So, and that was an interesting thing. So Amazing Spider-Man 252 is the first appearance of the alien costume with Spider-Man, but you don't get the origin of that until I think 2 months later with Secret Wars number 8.
Right.
Yeah. So you don't know how this happened. It just, he has, like, Spider-Man comes back, and now all of a sudden he has this cool fucking costume that can do all this cool shit. When the fuck did this happen? Right. I think, again, very interesting how that happens, right? And today, people would lose their shit because you know what? They would already post out the preview page and people would put spoilers out there. You couldn't do this. You couldn't. Like, people, like, you know, people would have lost their minds. Can you imagine that? Apparently, when this first came out, people also weren't happy with the costume design. I think Marvel paid what $200 to the person, to a fan who came up with the black costume design. Which, by the way, that fan is kicking themselves right now.
Yo, Chris, let's be honest right now. Do you like that suit better?
Yes, I love the black suit. I love the black suit. No, here's the thing. I love what they do later on when it's not the alien costume, and so sometimes you have to put the black one on. Sometimes he puts the red and blue one on. I love the idea that you don't just use it all the fucking time. But
he keeps it till 300. He keeps a cloth version of it till 300.
Yeah, I and every now and then you still have them in the red and blue one sometimes. But yeah, I like the idea of that they, again, this is an idea of Marvel going almost 50 issues with their main character and their main costume changed.
Yeah.
I mean, again, people would lose their shit today. People lose their shit today. I mean, they lost their shit back then, but lose their shit. And
they just relaunched the Scarlet Spider book.
Mm-hmm.
And originally they had put out this new Scarlet Spider suit, which was objectively fucking terrible. And there was such outrage about it on the internet that within 2 months they had officially changed in book and on covers to the old Scarlet Spider suit. Which normally I'm like, fans are stupid and loud. I'm like, fans are smart and loud.
No, you need to listen to these people this time.
This time they were right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even that I like them more. I like the costume, but I also like the idea of, because here's another thing too I noticed with the costume, even when it wasn't the alien costume, at some points Peter seemed to be more violent with it.
He felt more aggressive wearing the suit.
He felt, even if it wasn't the alien suit, he seemed more aggressive. The way he came off seemed more aggressive. And I like that because, again, it kind of tracked with the idea of, Peter Parker's fucking fed up at this point.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, and right, he's gone through 250 issues of, fuck, can I get a break?
This is that bullshit.
Right.
This is that bullshit again.
Right. So issue 252 to 259, the one where they Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four revealed that it's actually an alien costume. I think that might be 258. When they reveal that it's actually, so he goes 6 issues with him just thinking it's a costume, not realizing that it's actually an alien costume, a living, breathing alien. In 258, they get it off of him, but it comes back. Web of Spider-Man #1 is basically him getting rid of the costume by the means that people have seen before, whether it's in the animated show or that horrible Spider-Man 3 live action with the bell tower. It happens there, but you get there's a key point in Web of Spider-Man #1 that people miss, and it's that after the costume has gotten off of Peter, Peter's knocked out. The costume comes back and drags Peter down the stairs.
Yep. And
it just seems like, well, why did the costume do that? Why the alien symbiote? Why did it do this? Why did it save Peter there? And you're gonna find out later on that's a huge part, because basically it's puppy love.
It's not puppy love. It's real passionate love.
Yeah.
But it also explains why you can't do a Venom movie without Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
Makes no goddamn sense.
No,
sorry,
I mean, because
I feel very strongly about that.
No, because the symbiote is, Peter Parker is the symbiote's first choice. It's basically its first love. It is Peter Parker is his Gwen Stacy. In a way. Like, it's just, that is what it is. And so that kind of breeds that jealousy in Eddie Brock / Venom even more when you find out it's Peter Parker, the man he blames for losing his job in the first place. Again, Secret Wars #8 is the origin of the alien costume. When we covered Secret Wars before. If you want to hear that, go to their was it our first character corner on Doctor Doom? It's either the first or second character corner on Doctor Doom. I can't remember. I think it's the first. I think we ended the first with ending Secret Wars. So listen to there. We go into it in details there. So Peter gets rid of the costume in 258 when he finds out that it's alive. But and this is the thing that always drives people crazy. It's like, but you still see him in when he's in Kraven's Last Hunt, he's still in the costume. Like, it's like, wait, what's there? Spectacular Spider-Man number 99. Black Cat, because again, remember, Peter's going back and forth between Felicia and MJ. She makes him a costume. She makes him. Yep. He's domesticated the Black Cat, and she's made him a bunch of costumes. He made him a bunch of black costumes, and so that's where the black costume comes from. Yeah, because there's one time I think Peter, it's hilarious. It's hilarious how this happens. Peter comes home. He's washing because again, remember Peter's not. One, it's the 80s and he doesn't have a washing machine, but he's also fucking broke. So he's washing his red and blue one in the sink, but he forgot to take it out of the sink because again he's got a full-time job going on. And again, this is just one of those small details about Spider-Man and his everyday mundane life. And you're like, yeah, this is basically what would happen if what would happen if Bruce Wayne was Batman but didn't have any fucking money. He'd be washing his tights.
Broke as fuck.
Right. He'd be washing his tights in the sink. So Peter's washing the suit, but he forgot to take it out to dry. But he needs to go out that night, so he puts on the black one. And I'm just like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So and that's what happens. It's like so he has to. So that's where it comes from. That's where the black. Sometimes you see. So he only has the alien costume for 6 issues, but he has a black one for good God
until 300. Until
300.
Venom scares Mary Jane.
Yeah. Because
she's right. Like, take that goddamn thing off.
Yeah, because Venom shows up at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 299 and scares the fuck out of Mary Jane, and then Peter comes in. So Peter comes into the house in 300, and Mary Jane is scared out of her fucking mind when Peter shows up. She's like, what the fuck? So we can't put that costume anymore. So that's what happens. So you get like 50 issues of a black costume, which again, I like it. It's just clean, man. It's clean.
It's just, it's such a clean look. And the thing about it is, particularly in the 80s, they finally refined how to depict black on comic book covers. Right. Because it's hard, it's expensive to print something in black in the comic book.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of the lighter blues, and the blues get played off in the black, and it looks really nice and really well done, especially for at the time. And you think about it when that issue 300 comes out that we're going to talk about in a second, it's also the first appearance of Todd McFarlane.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and so then you get the infamous Amazing Spider-Man number 300, which I actually own this one. And this is, besides the first appearance of Wolverine and the first appearance of Gambit, this is another one of the issues I always wanted to own as a kid. I always wanted to own this one. Just because, man, that cover is just nice.
It's a strong... I'm one of the people who, like, I guess I'm one of those know-it-all comic fans who's like, nah, Venom's okay. That cover's great. That first Todd McFarlane cover, with that pose and that webbing and the black suit, man.
Well, you got to remember. So we talked about this when we went over, when we went over the Rogue Gallery for Spider-Man. We talked about this. Like the first appearance of Venom in that issue 300 is okay. Like you get more of Venom later on, and we'll cover that, I guess, going forward because we're only going up to 300 today. You get more of him later on. But this is the first appearance of him is just okay. But that cover, like I said, you get Spider-Man in the black costume. You get 300 all over it. Like it's red, 300 in red all over that cover. It's just I fucking love that cover, man. It's just it's fucking beautiful. So, and again, and then the first issue, the first page is Mary Jane scared out of her fucking mind at Peter. Terrified. And then that's when you get the revelation of Eddie Brock. I think Eddie Brock's first. Go ahead. No, I think Eddie Brock's first appearance was a Web of Spider-Man 18. But up until that point, you had seen him a little bit in the shadows. I guess in 298.
He's in the Death of Jean Dewolff stuff.
He is.
Yeah, because didn't he get the Sin Eater's ID wrong?
So I think that's not retcon, but
retcon.
It's not a retcon. It's what they reveal in 300. He's technically not there, but they use that, and And again, I don't know, man. I guess I look down on the word retcon. I feel like retcon's always used as a negative these days.
Yeah.
But the way Marvel does their retcons are, they don't get rid of history; they use history, and
they incorporate it.
Yeah, and they fill in gaps. And to me, again, sometimes it doesn't work. You know, sometimes like when they try to retcon all that Wolverine shit with Romulus, that does not work. All right, I'm just throwing it out there now. That does not work. That is fucking terrible. But when you do things like this, where you're like, what if there was another reporter there who got the idea of the Sin Eater wrong, and then
who got the story wrong? What if you made one mistake?
Right. He got one mistake, and then he blamed Peter Parker, and now you have this idea of the symbiote and that has his own problems with Peter and Spider-Man, along with Eddie Brock, who also has his own problems with Spider. So again, this goes back to what we were saying about it's hard to do a Venom movie without Spider-Man because both pieces of the Venom as you know it, like sure you can go with the Agent Venom story, but again, that to me that's not the story people think. When people think of Venom, they don't think of Agent Venom. They don't think about
Flash Thompson. I'm the only one who really wants a Venom Flash Thompson movie. I think.
Well, it's
just me.
I'm not saying it won't work, but the general masses, when they think Venom, they don't think that one.
I want to eat your brains.
Yeah. That's not the one they think of. And so, so you think of and this Venom, and even then, from what we know, Sony has cast Tom Hardy to be Eddie Brock.
Oh, they're doing Eddie, which is nuts.
So if you're going to do Eddie's motivation is because he has a problem with Peter Parker, and the symbiote has a problem because Peter Parker rejected them. You put both of those together, that gives you Venom. Both of those require Peter Parker. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
You know? So he says, he talks about, at least I was when I began writing a series of articles on the Sin Eater murders a few months back. It was partly because of those articles that I was contacted by Mr. Emil Gregg, a man who confessed to being the Sin Eater. Protecting Mr. Gregg's identity through my rights under the First Amendment, I told a story incisively, compassionately. The Globe circulation soared, but pressure also mounted. The police insisted that I reveal my source so they could stop the murder spree under advice of the council. I finally wrote my masterpiece announcing Gregg as the Sin Eater. It was a sensation. Soon the whole city, he said, he was a sensation for about an hour and a half. That was how long it was before you revealed who the real Sin Eater was. Soon the whole city knew that Sin Eater was actually policeman Stan Carter, and that my story was based on a lurid ramblings of a compulsive confessor. The Globe was a laughingstock. I was fired. I was fired. My peers questioned my ethics, shunned me. I was forced to write venomous celebrity exposés, and I was kidnapped by alien drivel for scandal rags just to eke out a living. If you hadn't butted in, no one would have known that Emil Gregg wasn't the Sin Eater. Perhaps Carter would have been smart and stopped killing, knowing he could get off scot-free. You know? And so, yeah, you literally get Eddie's whole existence is to hate Peter Parker, hate Spider-Man, and turns out he was in the church that the bell tower was in when the costume when the alien costume got off of Peter, and it found somebody who hated Peter Parker as much as they did right at that point. So, and
we have our first character who would use the power of hate to embolden themselves against Spider-Man, but not the last.
Listen, Eddie Brock and Venom are basically a fucking Sith Lord, yo. He's basically a fucking Sith Lord. Yeah, and it's great, and you'll see this later on coming through. A lot of this is, I'm not sure it doesn't happen here. No, because he ends up capturing them, but at one point, I guess we'll go over that later on. Some of the ways that Peter's able to stop Venom is basically by trying to entice the symbiote away from Eddie is like, come back home. You know you want to come back home. And
it's a weird, the way it's written is a really weird level of like dependence. It's, well, like I said, we'll talk about it next time. But yeah, the Peter Venom relationship is one that you need to have Peter for in your movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just sorry. If you're going to do Eddie Brock as Venom, you can't do Eddie Brock as Venom without Peter. Like, everything involved in that involves Spider-Man. It just does. I understand that they made
even Flash does, because he's inspired to be a hero because of Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I understand they made Venom solo comics and things like that, but again, even then, it's even to the point of Eddie trying to then go and do the Kraven route of proving himself to be better than Spider-Man. You know, it's
the lethal protector.
Yeah, it's something that's always there, and it's just, I don't see how you fucking pull that shit off.
Yes, you can. I'm really excited to see them lose the rights back to Marvel. I mean, try.
Good for you. Go ahead and try that. So, yeah. So, there you guys have it. Another, there's more than 150 issues of that, because we got some Web of Spider-Man.
Yeah, because we pulled it in $300.
Yeah, so there was like 300 books there. Yeah, 2 hours there, but yeah, that's it. So again, you see a lot of maturity in Peter Parker here. There are just some really great stories here. Like, we still skipped over a lot. Like, there's some really good solo issues, some good 2-part issues, some good, and just getting the maturity of Peter Parker, getting the maturity of the people around him and the stories around him going on there. I mean, it's some really good stuff. Like I said, the Hobgoblin stuff really does take up a lot of, like, going into this, I was like, oh, well, we'll lead into, and we'll go into some of the stuff leading into with Venom and the black costume. But to me, and even with Kraven's last hunt being the, probably the best story out of here, the Hobgoblin stuff just takes up so much of this time, and it's such a good mystery and a good story and a good way they did it, except for the very end with Ned Leeds, but then they come back later on and they clean that up. So, yeah, man. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Yeah, I found a really interesting site. I was doing the research for this. So everyone knows Marvel has a basically 3 to 4 year sliding time scale. So every 3 to 4 years is apparently 1 year in Marvel time. And someone asked me on Twitter at some point, was like, do you have an idea about the ages of Peter Parker in these things? So I wanted to use this site. And Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy to about the first appearance of the Sinister Six, Spider-Man Annual, was he's about 15 to 17.
Good God.
Yeah, and we talk about the things that we covered and how all these supposed to be, gets really weird. When he first meets Gwen Stacy, all the way to the first time we get the tiger to hit the jackpot, he's about 18 to 19. He's still that age as we head into the death of Captain Stacy. The night of Gwen Stacy died is roughly 19 years old for Peter Parker.
The love of his life dies by his hands at 19.
The original Clone Saga happens at about 20, about a year, almost approximately a year later. Peter and first are proposing to MJ is after graduation, so he's approximately 21. Black Cat and everything happens there at about 21 years old. Most of this podcast is about 21, 22. The black suit he gets when he's 22 years old, and Venom first appears after his wedding at 23 to Mary Jane. So he's about 23 years old when Venom starts stalking MJ. Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, and at this point, he's lived at least 3 lives.
Yo.
He lived at least 3 lives.
That Marvel timescale is not a friendly one.
Because here's the thing, because other thing that always goes through this thing is, particularly some of the times when, I want to say it's during, it might be during Gang War, like he's thinking about giving up being Spider-Man. So it's like 22, 23. He's thinking about giving up being Spider-Man because, like, think about all the stuff he's been through and all the people he's lost. He's lost people close to him. He lost Jean Dewolff. He's lost Gwen Stacy. But there's also people like Ben. He lost Ben. He's lost at this point Ned Leeds. When this is over, Ned Leeds is gone. Flash has gone through the. Flash has gone to Flash has gone to been in the hospital and been to jail because they thought he was Hobgoblin. We forgot to mention this. Mary Jane had a miscarriage.
Yep.
You know, it's
Harry
just
puts on the suit.
Yeah. Yep. Like, yeah. It's just there's a lot.
Harry's best moment in the suit will come very early next podcast. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah. You know, it's just there's a lot of things that just he's gone through, and he's only 23 at this point. Wow. Just wow. Okay. So, all right. What are we going to next time? Obviously we're going to do. Obviously we're going to hit the Clone War Saga.
Okay, so we're going to do Venom and the Clone Saga. So the Clone Saga also spins. So the Clone Saga happens, and then Ben becomes Spider-Man. Spoilers. And then Peter loses his powers, becomes Spider-Man again, and then Hobgoblin lives in 97. He quits being Spider-Man in Final Chapter, which, let's say, God, just short of Ezekiel? No, that's way too much. So much bad Spider-Man.
Yeah, let's say
late 90s is bad for me.
We're getting into some bad stuff here. We're getting into some questionable Spider-Man stuff. So, you know, at this point, maybe we go a little bit more so we get to some good stuff and we just skip over some of the bad.
Okay, let's maybe go up to him joining the Avengers.
Okay, when's that?
That's, I mean, it's going to line up with Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 519, Friendly Neighborhood, and New Avengers 1 through 3.
Okay. All right, let's
see. I need to find out when the Marvel Knights run happens because there's a really good run there too.
Okay, let's do that.
We'll figure. I'll send you an email on this one. This is one we need to have a conversation about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that through, and we'll figure that shit out. So, yeah, there you guys have it. This is not. We'll get this out there before.
Can we do an episode where we just do alternate depictions, like we'll just do movie, television.
I kind of feel like we had to. I was holding off on that. I kind of figured that was going to have.
Do you want to do that next? This will be a shorter podcast.
Okay, let's do that next. We can throw that next in there. I do know I'm gonna have Drew and I think a couple other people are gonna join us. We're gonna have Drew on for premium stuff. We're gonna talk about Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 on the 15th and the 29th. But Deepalm and I will also do a character corner, and we'll just do because we got the Spider-Man animated series. You have the movies,
like 4 different animated series.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a TV show. I remember the 60s TV show. I remember that. I do. So yeah. So stay tuned. We'll get this out there before. Go see Spider-Man Homecoming. Review will be out on Friday, but it's fucking good, people. It is. Go see that shit.
Damn you, Chris.
I'm just saying.
And we are going to record a spoiled one. Aren't we?
Oh, no, dude. I'm waiting for you to see this when we record the spoiler one.
Is this a free feed one, you think?
No. If you guys want the spoiler one, you're going to have to pay for that shit. If you want to get all this stuff, nope. You're going to have to pay for that one. You're going to get... Hey, look, it's $8 a month, guys. It's not that much. You'll be able to get the spoiler review on this one. It's going to be great because, trust me, there's a lot of shit in here. They throw, like... Giving Marvel creative control, they didn't know what they were. They didn't know the can of worms they were opening up. They're so like. Here's the thing: I'm gonna have to see it again myself this weekend, just so I'm prepared because there's so much shit they throw in here. So
I'm so.
Oh God, I'm so great. I'm so excited. All right, folks, there you guys have it. Character Corner. Again, leave us a 5-star review to get the taste of that 1-star review who was a shitty person out of our mouths. We'll read it on air next time, and you can email us at mtrailerreviews@mtrnetwork.net. Just go to mtrnetwork.net. We're writing more articles. My article about Spider-Man and Sony is up there right now on the mtrnetwork.net. Go to our store.mtrnetwork.net. Buy some of our shirts. I might add some more shirts this weekend. If not, I'll do it when we get back from Comic-Con. I'll blame Deepalm and blame Chris Search will be up there then.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, hey, we gotta let the people wait for a little bit.
I'm glad you waited till after NegroCon. I wasn't ready to be staring at a bunch of blame.
Yeah, look, I didn't want to stare at a bunch of the other ones too, so I had to do it myself. So, all right, folks. Thank you guys very much for listening, and until next time, we are out of here. Peace.